You are probably already familiar with FPV. However, one feature that can take the experience to the next level is head tracking. The concept itself is not new. In the last years, head tracking was usually achieved using additional modules attached to the goggles and servo-driven pan and tilt systems. More recently, a much more convenient, ready-made solution has become widely available: FPV camera gimbals. These gimbals have been on the market for some time, but they still do not appear to be common or popular. That is something worth changing. This video explains how to quickly configure the Caddx GM3 gimbal and enable head tracking through the goggles. The process may seem simple, but the individual features were introduced gradually. The system did not initially work straight out of the box. Additional configuration steps were required, and the necessary information was scattered across different sources. As a result, many users encountered problems and eventually gave up. Setting up head tracking often felt more like beta testing than using a finished product. User manuals for all the required devices are available on the Caddx website. However, collecting the entire process in one place makes the setup much easier to understand. Let's start with the hardware and the equipment required to enable head tracking. The available gimbals come in GM1, GM2 and GM3 versions. The main difference between them is the number of stabilized axes. The GM3 used here is a 3-axis gimbal, allowing the camera to move freely in every direction. Each model is currently also available in V1 and V2 versions. We are still using the V1 version here. The V2 has a slightly different design and also supports the Caddx Ascent system. Ascent is the Caddx new digital transmission system. It's less expensive than Walksnail, but also involves more compromises. The V1 version supports only Walksnail, which is Caddx's flagship system and the main focus of this guide. The connections and all important functions remain the same in both versions. The gimbal can be controlled in several different ways, and the easiest way to understand them is to group them by device connected to the gimbal. For direct head tracking, the GM3 can be connected straight to a compatible VTX through UART. In this connection, the head tracking data travels from the goggles through the video system directly to the gimbal. The gimbal can be also connected to an RC receiver. S-Bus and Crossfire carry several gimbal functions through a single signal wire, while PWM uses separate wires for mode, sensitivity, pitch and yaw. Another option is to connect the GM3 to a flight controller through UART. The same physical RX and TX connection can carry MSP when using iNav or Mavlink when using ArduPilot or PX4. The wiring is the same, but the protocol and software configuration are different. PPM works slightly differently. It carries the head tracking channels from the goggles to the radio transmitter. The receiver must still be connected to the gimbal through S-Bus, Crossfire or PWM. The most suitable solution depends on the platform and the required functionality. However, the primary method of controlling the gimbal is a direct UART connection to the VTX. This allows us to use the head tracking function built into the goggles. And this is the solution we will cover in this video. Not every VTX supports head tracking. Compatible models currently include the single antenna and dual antenna versions of the Avatar VTX V2, as well as the Avatar Moonlight and Avatar GT2. Head tracking is supported by the Goggles X and Goggles L. We will demonstrate the process using the Goggles X and the Moonlight VTX, although all configuration steps are the same for every compatible device. The first important point is that head tracking will probably not work immediately after connecting the equipment. The firmware must first be updated in both the gimbal and the head tracking module inside the goggles. A dedicated update cable is required. Unfortunately, this cable was not always included with the goggles or gimbal. According to the current information on the Caddx website, it's now included as standard with V2 gimbals. Earlier sets often didn't include it. This means that users could have all the main components but still be unable to continue with the setup because the update cable was missing. The cable can be ordered from the website free of charge, so it's worth remembering to add it to your order when purchasing other equipment. So let's begin by preparing the equipment and updating the gimbal firmware. Prepare the included wiring according to the intended installation. For this configuration, only 4 wires are required: UART RX and TX, power and ground. The PWM wires can be removed from the connector because they are not used. The UART wires already have a connector attached. This connector will be plugged directly into the VTX. For power, a separate connector can be soldered to the power and ground wires. In this example, the connector is plugged into a 9V output on the flight controller. The exact power connection depends on the aircraft. When using the gimbal in an aircraft with a flight controller, the easiest solution is usually to connect it to one of the FC's power outputs. Another option is to attach a battery connector and power the gimbal separately. Regardless of the selected method, keep the input voltage within the supported range of 7 to 26 volts. Plug the main connector into the gimbal. Next, connect the UART plug to the VTX port marked with a white dot. Next, connect the power supply. In our case, as mentioned earlier, it's connected to a power output on the flight controller. We can now move on to the update module. Attach the cable included with the update module, then connect the other end to the port located on the side of the gimbal. Connect the update module to the computer through USB. It still needs power from the flight controller side, so connect the battery. Once the hardware is connected, continue with the software. Open the download section on the Caddx website and locate the correct firmware package. It's worth mentioning that in addition to updating the gimbal, you may also need to update the avatar firmware in both the goggles and the VTX if your current version is outdated. Scroll down to the gimbal firmware section. Separate packages are available for GM3 and GM3. Download the version that matches the hardware. We are using the V1 version, so that is the one we will download. The downloaded archive contains 2 folders: GM Upgrade Package and Head Tracking. Start with the GM Upgrade Package folder. Open the driver folder and run the setup file. The connected gimbal should be detected automatically. Click Install and wait for the driver update to finish. Next, open the software folder and launch the gimbal config application. Select the correct port. In this example, the gimbal is detected on COM4. Click Start Debug. Once the connection has been established, the application will begin receiving data from the gimbal. Before uploading the firmware, check the channel settings in its section. Every field must be set to channel 1. This configuration is required for correct operation with the head tracking function built in the goggles. Click Open button at the bottom. Navigate to the firmware folder and select the firmware file. Click Upgrade and wait for the process to complete. After a short moment, the firmware update will be complete. The update process is the same for the V2 gimbal, although the V2 software interface has been visually refreshed. The next step is to update the head tracking module in the goggles. There are also a few hardware related details to consider here because the system evolved over time. Early versions of the Goggles X did not include a built-in head tracking module. For those units, a separate extension module was available. Connecting the external module is straightforward, but not convenient as it requires additional wires outside the goggles. Caddx still offers these modules for owners of the original Goggles X. There's also a short video on their website showing how to set it up. Newer versions of the Goggles X already include the head tracking module built in. The Goggles L also have a built-in module. The update process is the same for all 3 configurations and the same update cable is used in every case. So, connect the 3.5mm cable supplied with the goggles to the update module. Connect the other end of the cable to the corresponding port. Power on the goggles and connect the update module to the computer through USB. Open the previously downloaded firmware package. Enter the head tracking folder and launch the CW Head Tracker application. Click Start Debug. Move the goggles and confirm that the application reacts to their movement. Click Open and select the head tracking firmware file. Start the update and wait for the process to finish. The head tracking module is now updated. As shown, the process is very similar to the Gimbal firmware update. The equipment is now ready to operate, but before testing it, we will install the gimbal and camera in the aircraft. We will use the Stork as an example. Its nose section is designed to accommodate the GM3 gimbal, which is mounted on the shelf using the 4 M2 screws included with the gimbal. If you have not yet seen the Stork, take a look at the description, where you will find links to the design files and the videos dedicated to it. The remaining settings are available in the goggles interface. Open Settings, select Device and enter the head tracking menu. For head tracking through the goggles, select PTZ. In PTZ mode, individual tracking access can be enabled or disabled according to personal preference. The default setting is 3-axis tracking. For FPV use, this usually provides the most natural experience and is a good starting point. You can also adjust the pan and tilt ratios and the tracking sensitivity. These settings can be modified based on your experience during flight, but for now we will leave them unchanged. There is also a locking shortcuts option, which allows you to lock the gimbal's movement by quickly pressing down on the goggle's 5D button, which is the navigation joystick. Locking the camera can be useful during takeoff, landing, or any other stage of the flight when a fixed view is preferred. We will show you how it works in a moment. Before using the system, you also need to perform the standard calibrations. For gyroscope calibration, remove the lower antennas and place the goggles flat on a stable surface. To calibrate the accelerometers, place the goggles flat on each of 6 sides. Each position is confirmed by a beep after you can move on to the next one. To calibrate the magnetometer, rotate the goggles parallel to the ground as shown in the on-screen illustration. Once again, you will hear a beep when the calibration has been completed. After completing all these steps, the system is ready to use. The gimbal should now respond smoothly to movements of the goggles. Pressing the back button on the goggles 3 times resets the gimbal to its starting position. This will be useful if you change your sitting position during a flight and need to correct the gimbal's neutral position. Let's also demonstrate the gimbal locking function mentioned earlier. Enable the option in the settings and press the joystick down twice. The gimbal will now remain stationary. Repeat the same action to restore normal gimbal operation. I hope this video was helpful and you will now be able to set up your equipment without any problems and enjoy a new immersive FPV flying experience. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.